Bereit! Bereit! Achtung! Bereit! Angetreten! Bereit! Achtung! Bereit! Achtung! Achtung! Angetreten! Bereit! Achtung!
My fellow countrymen, today the guns are silent. A great tragedy has ended. A great victory has been won. The skies no longer rain death. The seas bear only commerce. Men everywhere walk upright in the sunlight. The entire world lies quietly at peace. The holy mission has been completed. And in reporting this to you, the people, I speak for the thousands of silent lips forever stilled among the jungles and the beaches and in the deep waters of the Pacific, which mark the way. I speak for the unnamed brave millions homeward bound to take up the challenge of that future which they did so much to salvage from the brink of disaster. As I look back on the long, tortuous trail from those grim days of Bataan and Corregidor, when an entire world lived in fear, when democracy was on the defensive everywhere, when modern civilization trembled in the balance, I thank God that He has given us the faith, the courage, and the power from which to move victory. We have known the bitterness of defeat and the exaltation of triumph, and from both we have learned there can be no turning back. We must go forward to preserve in peace what we won in war. A new era is upon us. Even the lesson of victory itself brings it profound concern, both for our future security and the survival of civilization. The destructiveness of the war potential through progressive advances in scientific discovery has, in fact, now reached a point which revises the traditional concept of war. Men, since the beginning of time, have sought peace. Various methods through the ages have been attempted to devise an international process to prevent or settle disputes between nations. From the very start, workable methods were found insofar as individual citizens were concerned. But the mechanics of an instrumentality of larger international scope have never been successful. Military alliances, balances of power, leagues of nations, all in turn failed, leaving the only path to be by way of the crucible of war. The utter destructiveness of war now blots out this alternative. We have had our last chance. If we do not devise some greater and more equitable system, Armageddon will be at our door. The problem, basically, is theological and involves a spiritual recrudescence and improvement of human character that will synchronize with our almost matchless advance in science, art, literature, and all material and cultural developments of the past 2,000 years. It must be of the spirit if we are to save the flesh. We stand in Tokyo today, reminiscent of our countryman Commodore Perry 92 years ago. His purpose was to bring to Japan an era of enlightenment and progress by lifting the veil of isolation to the friendship, trade, and commerce of the world. But alas, the knowledge thereby gained of Western science was forged into an instrument of oppression and human enslavement. Freedom of expression, freedom of action, even freedom of thought were denied through suppression of liberal education, through appeal to superstition, and through the application of force. We are committed by the Potsdam Declaration of Principles to see that the Japanese people are liberated from this condition of slavery. It is my purpose to implement this commitment just as rapidly as the armed forces are demobilized and other essential steps taken to neutralize the war potential. The energy of the Japanese race, if properly directed, will enable expansion vertically rather than horizontally. If the talents of the race are turned into constructive channels, the country can lift itself from its present deplorable state into a position of dignity. To the Pacific Basin has come the vista of a new emancipated world. Today, freedom is on the offensive. Democracy is on the march. Today, in Asia as well as in Europe, unshackled peoples are tasting the full sweetness of liberty, a relief from fear. In the Philippines, America has evolved a model for this new free world of Asia. In the Philippines, America has demonstrated that peoples of the East and peoples of the West may walk side by side in mutual respect and with mutual benefit. The history of our sovereignty there has now the full confidence of the East. And so, my fellow countrymen, today I report to you that your sons and daughters have served you well and faithfully with the calm, deliberate, determined fighting spirit of the American soldier and sailor, based upon a tradition of historical traits as against the fanaticism of an enemy supported only by mythological fiction. Their spiritual strength and power has brought us through to victory. They are homeward bound. Take care of them.
Товарищи красноармейцы и краснофлотцы, сержанты и старшины, офицеры армии и флота, генералы и адмиралы, товарищи рабочие и работницы, колхозники и колхозницы, работники науки, техники и искусства, служащие советских учреждений и предприятий. Боевые друзья, от имени и по поручению советского правительства и Всесоюзной коммунистической партии большевиков приветствую и поздравляю вас с великой победой над германским империализмом. Сегодня столица нашей Родины, Москва, от имени Родины чествует доблестных советских воинов, одержавших эту победу. Сегодня воины-победители пронесут по улицам Москвы и мимо стен Чудового Кремля свои боевые знамена, покрытые бессмертной славой многочисленных побед. 4 года назад немецко-фашистские полчища по-разбойничьи напали на нашу страну. Советский народ вынужден был оставить мирный труд и взяться за оружие, чтобы отстоять честь, свободу и независимость своего Отечества. Война с фашистской Германией этим коварным и сильным врагом явилась для нас тяжелым и грозным испытанием.
Achtung!
Однако наш советский народ, наша Красная Армия не падали духом. Отразив натиск немецких войск, Красная Армия перешла в решительное наступление, очистила от врага советскую землю, перенесла войну на территорию Германии, наглую разгромила гитлеровскую армию и водрузила знамя победы над Берлином. Соединенными усилиями держав Советского Союза,
Bereit!
Соединенных Штатов Америки и Великобритании, фашистская Германия повержена в прах. Ее чудовищная военная машина разрушена. Преступное гитлеровское правительство уничтожено. Очаг немецко-фашистской агрессии в Европе ликвидирован. Человечество избавлено от своего злейшего врага германского фашизма. Ныне все признают, что в достижении исторической победы над Германией Советский Союз играл главную решающую роль. На протяжении 3 лет Красная Армия один на один сражалась против вооруженных сил Германии и ее сателлитов. В Отечественной войне Красная Армия честью оправдала великое доверие народа. Ее славные воины достойно выполнили свой долг перед Родиной. Красная Армия не только отстояла свободу и
Angetreten!
независимость нашего Отечества, но и избавила от немецкого ига народы Европы. Отныне и навсегда наша победоносная Красная Армия войдет в мировую историю как армия-освободительница, овеянная ореолом немеркнущей славы. Отечественная война завершена. Одержана победа, какой еще не знала история. Источниками этой великой победы являются наш социалистический строй, мудрое руководство большевистской партии, правильная политика советского правительства, морально-политическое единство народов нашей страны, исполинская сила Красной Армии и доблестный труд советского народа. Товарищи, победу над германским империализмом мы завоевали ценой тяжелых жертв. Жестоких битвах с врагом стало смерть храбрых много наших боевых друзей, лучших сынов и дочерей нашего народа. Сегодня день великого торжества. Почтим их священную память и поездников. Вечная слава героям! Наши стоят за нашу советскую родину. Товарищи, сегодняшний день пойдет в историю как яркие демонстрации силы и могущества нашего государства и его вооруженных сил. Настав будет наша победа! Слава победоносным воинам, отстоявшим честь, свободу и независимость нашей Родины! Слава великому славянскому народу, народу-победителю!
So our Prime Minister has come back from his third and greatest journey, and he said
that the settlement of the Czechoslovakian problem, which has now been achieved, is, in my view, only the prelude to a larger settlement in which all Europe may find peace. This morning, I had another talk with the German Chancellor, Herr Hitler. And here is the paper which bears his name upon it as well as mine. Some of you perhaps have already heard what it contains, but I would just like to read it to you. We, the German Führer and Chancellor, and the British Prime Minister have had a further meeting today and are agreed in recognizing that the question of Anglo-German relations is of the first importance for the two countries and for Europe. We regard the agreement signed last night and the Anglo-German naval agreement as symbolic of the desire of our two peoples never to go to war with one another again. We are resolved that the method of consultation shall be the method adopted to deal with any other questions that may concern our two countries, and we are determined to continue our efforts to remove possible sources of difference and thus to contribute to assure the peace of Europe.
Mr. Speaker, the disastrous military events which have happened during the past fortnight have not come to me with any sense of surprise. Indeed, I indicated a fortnight ago, as clearly as I could to the House, that the worst possibilities were open. And I made it perfectly clear that whatever happened in France would make no difference to the resolve of Britain and the British Empire to fight on, if necessary for years, if necessary alone. I have thought it right upon this occasion to give the House and the country some indication of the solid, practical grounds upon which we base our inflexible resolve to continue the war. There are a good many people who say, never mind, win or lose, sink or swim, better die than submit to tyranny, and such a tyranny. And I do not dissociate myself from them. But I can assure them that our professional advisors of the three services unitedly advise that we should carry on the war, and that there are good and reasonable hopes of final victory. We have fully informed and consulted all the self-governing dominions. These great communities, far beyond the oceans, who have been built up on our laws and on our civilization, and who are absolutely free to choose their course, but are absolutely devoted to the ancient motherland, and who feel themselves inspired by the same emotions which lead me to stake our all upon duty and honor. We do not yet know what will happen in France, or whether the French resistance will be prolonged, both in France and in the French Empire overseas. The French government will be throwing away great opportunities and casting adrift their future if they do not continue the war in accordance with their treaty obligation, from which we have not felt able to release it. The House will have read the historic declaration in which it is the desire of many Frenchmen and of our own hearts we have proclaimed our willingness at the darkest hour in French history to conclude a union of common citizenship in this struggle. However matters may go in France, or with the French government, or other French governments, we in this island and in the British Empire will never lose our sense of comradeship with the French people. If we are now called upon to endure what they have been suffering, we shall emulate their courage. And if final victory rewards our toils, they shall share the gains. Aye, and freedom shall be restored to all. We abate nothing of our just demands. Not one jot or tittle do we recede. Czechs, Poles, Norwegians,
Angetreten.
Belgians who joined their causes to our own. All these shall be restored. What General Weygand calls the Battle of France is over. I expect that the Battle of Britain is about to begin. Upon this battle depends the survival of Christian civilization. Upon it depends our own British life and the long continuity of our institutions and our empire. The fury and might of the enemy must very soon be turned on us. Hitler knows that he will have to break us in this island or lose the war. If we can stand up to him, all Europe may be free, and the life of the world may move forward into broad, sunlit uplands. But if we fail, then the whole world, including the United States, including all that we have known and cared for, will sink into the abyss of a new dark age, made more sinister and perhaps more protracted by the lights of perverted silence. Let us, therefore, brace ourselves to our duty.